So my name is Margaret Galbraith. I'm the president of Transition Town Port Washington. We are a community-driven organization that educates, advocates, and acts to protect the natural habitats on the Port Washington Peninsula and our waterways. And one of my favorite programs is our Youth Activist Program. We've been doing it about 4 years. We meet every week, Monday at Shriver right now. And we really set it up to give kids, or our youth, hands-on, meaningful engagement in civics and in stewardship, and to build the next generation of leaders, environmental leaders. And I think you'll agree that they've really already stepped into that leadership role. So thank you. And what we've done new this year is we've combined it with the climate justice work that we've been doing for a while now. And it has given our youth opportunities to work with leaders in Long Island, locally, and statewide. And one of our partners is Monique Fitzgerald. She is a powerhouse, fantastic climate justice leader in Long Island and in statewide. And she is the founder, one of the founders, co-founder of, let me see if I'm saying it right, the Brookhaven Landfill Action and Remediation Group. She's also a climate justice and campaign director at Long Island Progressive Coalition. So you know how our internship program work is we have 3 student-led groups. We have a water quality group, a biodiversity group, and a plastics reduction group. And Brady Bailey, who has been here from the very beginning of the program, is the leader of the plastics reduction group. And I'm gonna let I'm gonna hand the microphone to her, and she will lead you through the rest of the evening. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. My name is Brady Bailey. I am a junior at Schreiber High School. I have worked with Transition Town Port Washington for the past 5 years. This program has allowed me to expand my knowledge and speak out for what I believe in. I wanted to highlight some of the accomplishments we've made over the past few years. We've successfully hosted the first and many other plastic-free lunch days in our school district, spoke to the superintendent, Board of Ed, and many others to gain momentum for having a completely plastic-free cafeteria. We also lobbied at the state capitol to prompt legislatures to say yes to a large amount of environmental laws. We will be there again in about a week to continue to fight for the environment. Now I want to introduce you to the other interns here today.
Hello, everyone. My name is Edna Keeney Bailey. This is my 3rd year with Transition Town, and I'm in 8th grade.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jack Steinberg, and this is my 2nd year with the Transition Town program.
Hello. Like Margaret said, my name is Monique Fitzgerald, she, her pronouns, and I am with BLARG, the Brookhaven Landfill Action and Remediation Group, as well as Long Island Progressive Coalition.
When plastic first entered the mass market in the 1950s, it was celebrated for making life more efficient and convenient. With more recent and thorough studies, scientists have realized it's extremely toxic to ourselves and the environment around us, and that it is nearly impossible to avoid. Plastics are made from oil and gas, which are heated and turned into tiny building blocks, linked together into long chains to form plastic, which is then melted and molded into different shapes, like bottles, toys, and bags. Despite common belief, plastics never truly decompose. They are broken up into tiny microscopic particles known as micro and nanoplastics. Although we cannot see them, they are a part of our everyday lives. Scientists have found these particles in the human body, including the brain and reproductive organs, as well as our drinking water and food we consume regularly. The average person eats a credit card's worth of plastic a week. Consider this during your next grocery store trip or gas station stop. You may have noticed that your water bottle has a recycling symbol. This is considered a false truth. it is most likely going to end up in a landfill or incinerator. Only 6% of plastics are actually recycled. Waste is more than just trash. The consequences are innumerable. According to the World Bank, the world generates over 2.1 billion tons of solid waste annually. This number is supposed to increase to 3.4 billion tons by 2050. Plastic production and demand is growing exponentially. If this crisis is not dealt with, we will continue to see negative health impacts and resource depletion. New York State alone generates 42.2 million tons of waste annually. This is about the weight of 19,090 blue whales, the heaviest animal on the planet.
Cancer Alley is a stretch of land along the Mississippi River. It is located from Baton Rouge to New Orleans and is home to over 200 petrochemical plants and refineries. It has some of the highest cancer rates in the United States, with many communities facing cancer rates many times the national average. Historically, the region was known as Plantation County, a term used for the St. James, St. Charles, and St. John Baptist parishes. For centuries, the land was cleared for sugarcane plantations that relied heavily on enslaved African labor. Environmental justice advocates and historians note that modern-day petrochemical plants and refineries are built on the footprints of these plantations. They explain that if the land had not been canned for sugarcane, the petrochemical industry would not have the infrastructure or suitable land to develop there. Due to the history of the land, the modern-day communities living in Cancer Alley are predominantly African American. And due to the petrochemical plants and other pollutants, African American communities are experiencing many health impacts, making Cancer Alley a big topic of conversation for many environmental justice advocates. Although many of us know the impacts of plastic on our environment, not so well known is the impacts of plastics on our health. You may ask how plastics even impact our body. Well, most commonly known, plastic gets into our body through plastic packaging. We consume around 5 grams of plastics a week, which is the equivalent of a plastic bottle cap. Every microplastic contains thousands of chemicals. These chemicals can reduce fertility, cause cancer, damage the nervous system, block key hormones, and many more. So when questioning buying a plastic water bottle, consider just using the water fountain, and try and picture one whole credit card in the middle of your stomach, or running the risk of getting diagnosed with liver cancer. Although this seems like a far reach, this is the reality for some, and without making a change, it could be you too. You may think the impact of not buying one plastic bottle or not throwing one piece of trash on the ground goes unnoticed, but it doesn't. That one piece of trash, maybe not alone, but grouped with many others, could help contribute to damaging a water ecosystem or contaminating soil, water, and food chains with microplastics. Indigestion or entanglement have become more and more predominant in the deaths of sea animals. Landfills produce toxic liquids that can seep into soil and groundwater, contaminating drinking water. Is that what you want to drink? Most people know that the releasing of greenhouse gases through the burning of fossil fuels immensely contributes to the changing state of our climate. But not only does the burning of fossil fuels release greenhouse gases, many other things do too. One of them being your trash. Landfills generate methane, an extremely potent greenhouse gas, and waste management accounts for about 20% of global human-driven methane emissions. Another big greenhouse gas emitter is plastic. In fact, plastic releases so many greenhouse gases that if it were to be a country, it would be the 5th largest contributor to greenhouse gas emissions in the world.
You may have heard that incinerators are a clean alternative to throwing out trash. It sounds amazing, just an easy way to get rid of trash and generate energy. In reality, incinerators, also known as trash-to-energy facilities, are some of the most devastating machines to our environment. 25% of the mass burned in incinerators at temperatures as high as 2,500 degrees Fahrenheit will be transformed into toxic ash, chemicals, and other harmful substances. Currently, there are 73 incinerators around the U.S. and 4 on Long Island, located in Babylon, Hempstead, Huntington, and Ronkonkoma, contributing to a major health crisis in these communities. The health consequences of incinerators stretch far beyond the location of it. When some incinerators were found to release 14 times the legal limit of toxins as allowed by the government, people's lives and jobs became a dangerous daily task. These toxins were found to have links to breast and lung cancer, asthma, heart disease, and developmental disorders in children. Once an incinerator is built, local communities are left to deal with the mess all by themselves. Incinerators need to be constantly fed with trash, and many incinerator companies require communities to produce trash for incinerators, leading to increased waste and pollution. On top of all this, incinerators fail at their main purpose. They're inefficient at producing energy and pump out twice as much CO2 as nuclear power plants and coal power plants. Incinerators are terrible for the economy, so in a currently tight economy, building more incinerators is a waste of public money, money that people work hard to earn. Incinerators offer few jobs for local communities and cost twice as much as nuclear power plants to run. Incinerators are a giant debt trap for cities. Once one is built, communities are forced to pay for the maintenance of them through high taxes and waste disposal fees, of which the cost goes back to hardworking taxpayers. Simply, when a community agrees to this, they are stuck with it forever, even when there are better solutions in plain sight. After learning about the consequences of incinerators, something must be done to stop them. Helping solve this problem starts with us. This starts with us reducing, reusing, and recycling products, stopping the flow of unnecessary waste. But ultimately, you can support and speak to our legislators about policies that promote a circular economy, including redirecting money given to incinerator companies to renewable energy sources like wind and solar power. If we work together, we can create meaningful change with wide-reaching positive impacts.
All of our trash in Port Washington is sent to an incinerator located in Hempstead, formerly known as Covanta. Some of you may also know it as Reworld. Although you might not have noticed, I bet you've driven past this incinerator. It is the largest standing smokestack in all of Nassau County, and it is visible from the Meadowbrook State Parkway. After our trash is burned here, the leftover ash is transported 46 miles to the Brookhaven Landfill located in North Bellport. Now I'm going to give the floor to our guest speaker, Monique Fitzgerald.
All right, they're doing a great job, right, guys? So there's a lot to say when it comes down to the Brookhaven landfill and the Reworld Covanta incinerator. So, stop me if I go on and on. But yeah, I think the students here really teed it up very well. We have a plastic issue. I think in the 70s, the 50s even, is when we started seeing this explosion of plastics, and it really has put us on this negative trajectory that we are on right now. So what is the Brookhaven landfill? The Brookhaven landfill is in the backyard of where I live for all of my life. It is 270 feet tall. It is one of those structures in Suffolk County that is the tallest. It's 192 acres, and it is 50 years old. So my whole life, it's been with me. I've been laboring against it, just trying to essentially fight for my life. So how did we get to a place where we understand the gravity of the issue, right? My aunt helped me co-found the Brookhaven Landfill Action and Remediation Group. She's actually the top, top right-hand corner. She fought against the landfill coming to our community back in the 70s. And we knew then that it was going to be a harm to our community, but we didn't realize how detrimental it would be. But they sold us a dream. They said that, this would be something that we would be burdened with for a decade, and then it would be the next community's turn to shoulder the burden. But what we saw was that that never happened. Every time we were promised that the landfill would be closed, it never closed down. And so we had to continually fight for our health. We see that plumes have entered in our groundwater. And the first plume that was detected was in 1980. And now we see that in 2017, another plume is affecting our community. And this is 2026, and we haven't done anything about it yet. So these problems start to invade our communities, and they don't go away. So whatever we allow stays with us for decades. So, you know, the main thing that we do at Brookhaven Landfill Action and Remediation Group is call attention to what's happening with our town, try to hold them accountable for what they need to do in regards to closing down our landfill and cleaning it up. So right now, the town of Brookhaven is mandated to clean up the plume, but we are not trusting that they will do it in the manner in which will be the best way to do it. And also, this is gonna cost us a ton of money. And so I know we already talked about Covanta, but one of the main things that Covanta has, one of the main things that we've been following with Covanta is there was a ex-employee that blew the whistle on them for their practices not following guidelines. And we pushed the regulating agency of the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation to investigate this. So they did investigate, and they found that there were hundreds of violations from Covanta Real World. And then we pushed and pushed to have the court proceedings go through a trial, but Covanta, with all of its multi-billion dollars, was able to settle with the DEC for less than $1 million, right? They also settled with our town of Brookhaven for $1 million as well. This is not enough to clean up the mess that has been occurring in our groundwater. And so it's hard to continually have these conversations because with the community like North Belport, we have such little political capital that Covanta just runs ramshot all over our community. And thanks to you all last year for stopping them for trying to hold a public venue or event to greenwash the issue and, you know, prop themselves up as the saviors in our plastic issue. But we know that they are not the saviors that we need. Our youth here, they are doing a great job of putting forward a future that we all can live in, a sustainable future, one without plastic, right? So, what else about our community? We are a community of Black and brown folks. I myself and my family are indigenous to Long Island. We are part of the Settlecott Nation. And we moved over to North Belport in the 60s. And North Belport was engineered in the process of, through the process of blockbusting and redlining, right? So in 1955, the first case of blockbusting happened because of what was going on in North Belport, bringing Black folks, indigenous folks, and people of color into the community and scaring off the white folks in the community. And so this is what set up the ways in which the landfill was able to come to our community. Maybe it's asleep. So, oh, maybe I have to leave. I'm not sure. Maybe it's coming from up there. Yeah, for folks that don't know, a plume is just like a area of contamination. There we go. All right, thank you. A plume is an area of contamination. A plume can be filled with any kind of contamination. Even when you see the smokestack from Covanta in the air, that's a plume, right? But in our groundwater, we have a plume that's filled with, right now, PFAS, PFOA, and 1,4-dioxane. So these are toxic forever chemicals that are essentially hard or not even able to be taken out of our groundwater. And then, let me move it here. So when I was talking about the plume, this is a depiction of the plume in Bellport. So that the picture with all of the lines in it, that's showing where the plume actually is and the landfill itself and our community. And if you can see the lines going down towards the brownish area, I don't know what color that is, but that's the Bellport Bay. So the plume is leaving the Brookhaven landfill at the top and going down into our groundwater. And so, this is something that's going to affect our waterways. It's already affecting our groundwater. It's already affecting the Carmens River, that is a prominent river in our area. And then it's going to eventually make its way to the bay. So this is something that's not only a concern for our community, but this is a concern for the larger Long Island itself. So we're doing the best that we can to get the town of Brookhaven to actually clean this up, for the DEC also to be held accountable to clean this plume up as well. But folks like Covanta, they also need to pay for it, right? This is the number one thing that our community is concerned about. Who is going to pay for this cleanup? And with the town and the DEC settling for, just merely $1 million each, that's not going to be enough. So these are the issues that we're dealing with. We also have a high number of cancer in our community. I know we talked about the Cancer Alley in Louisiana, but this is also happening in our backyard. Long Island itself has a high number of cancer cases, but in one particular school of 4th and 5th graders, 35 teachers got cancer out of 105, and 18 of them passed away. We see our students also getting cancer and different cancers and different asthma-related illnesses. Like I said, I went to that school, and when I would go outside to play in the field, many of my fellow students, classmates, they couldn't play because they had asthma. And I didn't understand it when I was 10 or 11 years old. I didn't understand why so many kids had asthma. I thought that they were just, they didn't want to play or something. I was naive to the fact that this was an issue that was pervasive in our community because we live so close to a landfill. So, I don't want to go on and on and on and on, but I do want to just let you know that this is a really big concern for us, and we want to show the connection between Port Washington and Bellport, because the landfill accepts waste not only from Brookhaven, not only from North Bellport, but nearly 2 million households, or 2 million people on Long Island, and including Port Washington. So this is a situation that we're all in. We're all in it together. So we all need to come up with the solutions together. So whatever we can do, like Brady said, to reduce and reuse and compost and recycle is what we need to do. And we need to force our elected officials to get behind this and stop backing people or corporations like Covanta, because the industry needs the garbage, but we don't. So as best as you can to get behind us to make sure our officials don't give in to the greenwashing that is occurring with Covanta and even the waste haulers themselves. We need you all to do that. So I think that's where I'm gonna leave it, and I'll pass it back to Brady.
After all of this, you may be asking yourself how you can take action. If so, I have a few suggestions for how you can help. The Packaging Reduction and Recycling Infrastructure Act will ban 17 of the most harmful chemicals currently used in packaging, shift the cost of managing packaging waste from taxpayers to companies, reduce packaging by 30% over the next 12 years, and allow the remaining packaging to be reused or recycled by 2052. Many environmentalists have been trying to pass the bill, and you can help. In the back of the room, some of you may have noticed, there's a resource table. Here you can find a petition to sign, as well as flyers with all the information you need to write to your state assembly member and senator to prompt them to say yes to this bill. Beyond Plastics is also having another day of advocacy in Albany on May 11th, where you have the chance to speak to legislature and practice your lobbying skills. It is not yet posted on their site, beyondplastics.org, but continue to check back for updates. Food waste is another large aspect of the waste problem. One way to combat this is to start a compost in your own home or as a part of the community compost at the Science Museum of Long Island. In the back of the room, there is more information on how to join community composting. Also, there is an open house at the Science Museum on March 21st to learn more about how to compost at home or as a part of the community. Lastly, start saying no to unneeded plastics. Bring your own refillable water and use your own utensils when you buy takeout. Simple actions like these can make a large difference. Start refusing today.
So I just want to start by thanking Monique Fitzgerald. Thank you for sharing your lived experience and your experience from your community and for coming all this way and telling us about it. And thank you for your expertise. And thank you to the students who did a fantastic job. This is hard. These are hard truths that we're all trying to digest. I think we need to look forward to a zero waste economy and figure out how we can get there. I also, sorry, before I finish thanking, I want to thank the library as well. Thank you very much to the library. But I think the takeaway is that when you throw something away, there's no away. It goes to somebody else's backyard. And so we have to figure out how to change that. And so there are different things we can do. As Brady said, there's a big action in Albany right now. This is, I think, the second or third year they've been trying to pass this giant bill, which is the Plastic Reductions PREA and Recycling Act. And it would be amazing, and it would really cut down on the chemicals that are polluting our food, the chemicals that are going into our waters, and it would reduce plastics. One other thing I want to mention is that the youth have been working very hard in the schools. They've been working about 3 or 4 years in the schools to get plastics out of the cafeteria. And plastics is, what did they say today? That like fourth? It is one of the, I think it's the biggest public institution in the United States that produces garbage. So if we can get our school systems to get plastic out of the cafeterias, it would be huge. There is going to be a plastic-free lunch day on Earth Day. And also, just so you know, New York City has monthly plastic-free lunch days. So we've been working to get them to phase out plastic. It has come back. They're recommitting. They're looking into getting dishwashers as a pilot program. But we're really working to get as little plastic in the cafeteria as possible right now. So if any of you guys want to join our fight and help us at the schools to try to get rid of plastics, or to join us at Transition Town on this initiative and many others, we'd really appreciate it. Oh, okay. So there was at one point about 2 years ago, we had a plastic-free lunch day, and then they started phasing plastic out. We got rid of plastic water bottles. It was pretty amazing for about a year. How long was it? Yeah. But the plastic water bottles were more expensive. We did have refill stations. They were using paper cups. I think there was a lot of parents that were upset because the metal water bottles were quite a bit more expensive. They're $4. So they were expensive, there's no question, but there were alternatives. And so they've brought the plastic water bottles back as an option. So your voice as parents, if there's any parents out there, that is, important, that we could support the school in reducing the plastic. So there's also composting. Composting greatly reduces the amount of trash that is then sent to the incinerator. And in fact, the Brookhaven BLARG, the Brookhaven Landfill Action Alliance, started one in Brookhaven, and that's actually how Transition Town met, because we had worked on starting a compost program at the Long Island, the Science Museum of Long Island, and they came out to look at our compost, and we started sharing stories. So composting is very important. Go to the Science Museum of Long Island, start one at your home, but any way in which you can reduce waste is very important. And then we need a zero waste plan for our town. So I think that now we can see the really real effects of our trash, that we have to be more mindful and make a plan. So anything else, any questions? And I'm actually not going to be the one to answer a lot of these questions. I want to see if anybody else, and Hilda can also come up as well. But does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, and I'll come around with the microphone for anybody who has questions. I'll just first start by saying I did not know that our solid waste went to the incinerator in Manhasset and then on to the Brookhaven landfill. So that's, I think just learning the basic facts and information is where we have to start and go from there. So if folks have questions, here we go. And then folks on Zoom, you can type questions into the chat.
Hi there, thanks a lot, you guys, for this informative thing. I was wondering, does anybody know how interconnected the aquifers are in Long Island? Because I know New York City water is great, but Long Island water isn't. Anyone?
Well, a quick question, answer to one. It's in Hempstead is where our trash is incinerated.
Yes, I'm sorry if I
That's,
misspoke.
I just want to clarify. Okay.
From my understanding, we have a single source aquifer on Long Island. So that's a lot of the reason why, so I guess I didn't mention this. This is my second presentation today, so I think I'm getting confused with what I said earlier and what I'm saying right now. But we have this thing called the Long Island Landfill Law that was passed in 1983. And that law says that we're not able to send solid waste directly to a landfill. It has to essentially get processed or whatever. So this is why we have 4 incinerators on Long Island, which is a tremendous amount of incinerators in a region. We have 10 in the state, and that's more than any other state in the country. So other states are, other countries and other states are getting rid of the incinerators, but here we see that they're trying to ramp it up and maintain them. But the reason why landfill law just came about too is because of that aquifer situation. We all know that landfills leak. They've put liners in our landfills to stop the leakage. That didn't work, so then they double lined them, and that's not working. Our aquifers are in jeopardy right now, all over Long Island. I know you might have all heard about the Bethpage plume, right? So we have to protect our waterways, and our aquifers are supposed to sustain us with water for thousands and thousands of years. So if we start to contaminate those, then we're all just in trouble.
Yeah. Another question here.
Thank you, guys. Actually, sort of related. So, who decides? I mean, the whole industry of the incinerators and the landfills. I mean, is it a private enterprise? Is it sort of a public? How does New York end up with so many in relationship? If there's 73 in the whole country, how are we stuck with so many of them? Who makes that decision of how much is needed?
So basically, it's a public-private partnership, right? A lot of the municipalities, like the town of Babylon, has a contract with Covanta with their landfill and incinerator in their township. Town of Brookhaven has the contract with Covanta, the one in Hempstead, and we have the other two in Ronkonkoma and Huntington. So they basically our municipalities and our elected officials are in contract. They're in partnership with these corporations, and they don't want to end the partnership, right? Covanta entered Long Island's sphere in 1989, so these facilities are very old, and it's time for them to be decommissioned. But what we see our elected officials doing is that they're working with them, and not only working with them, they're allowing the corporations to lead the conversation on waste. Instead of allowing our students and community members that are affected by this and who will have to live with this for decades and decades to lead the conversation. So when we let the industry lead the conversation, the only thing that they're concerned about is money. And that is problematic. So we have to end these partnerships, and we need everyone to do that. Literally, Covanta or Reworld will just penetrate our spaces and take over.
So I just want to clarify, you had said that there was 74 incinerators. I think that was in New York State. Is that correct?
Country, 70.
In the entire country?
Yeah.
Wow. And 4 are here on Long Island. Okay, I just wanted to make sure to clarify that. Can you guys, oh yeah, there's another question back here.
Thank you. So I might be missing something, but I understand that we don't want incinerators and landfills, but what is the alternative? Where are we going to put our trash and the plastic that we are using? I definitely get putting out the word and rallying up the population. Please be use less and compost, and I even started using bar soap instead of plastic shampoos and so on and so forth. So, but you know, I'm one person, but how do we, but what is the alternative to these? I mean, still, I throw trash away all the time, you know, and I hate it, you know. In my building, you have to put it in a plastic bag. That's the requirement. That's the rule. So, which is very convenient for me. But I don't like it. But what else can I do? Where's it going to go? What do we do? What's the solution?
Well, I would just say that there's been different municipalities. Delaware County is one of them that is going through this process right now. They were able to get a consultant to do a zero waste management plan with them, and they are gonna start this process of what do we do with our trash. But other places like Boulder, Colorado, they have a great program that they already have implemented, and they've been able to reduce their waste by 70%. So it's doable, but we have to incentivize doing that. We have to have a culture shift, and we need the infrastructure to be able to do that. So Brady talked about the plastics law, the Packaging, Recycling, and Infrastructure Act. This is gonna help us reduce plastics in particular, and how, what else it does is it produces money, right? The producers of these plastics will have to pay, right, for their pollution. And that money is supposed to go to infrastructure. So this is another reason why we need that packaging law to pass, so that we have the funds to actually stand up some of the infrastructure that we need. So like we said, composting essentially is about 1/3 of our waste. So if we get rid of the food waste alone, That's a third that we're already down. And if we have this bill to reduce plastics, and then here we go, right? We're down, we're getting lower, right? And you go to the grocery store, you try to buy produce, you get inundated with packaging when you try to buy produce. So we have to have these larger systems realize that they can't package food and everything the way that they're packaging it. So once we start making those shifts, it'll become easier, and it won't be so hard for individuals to be able to buy in because the infrastructure will be there. So the way you're talking about it is the system that we have now, which does not have the systems to. Pretty much composting, repairs, right to repair laws where, you know, a lot of the stuff that we get, it breaks right away. The producers, they don't tell you how to fix it, right? So we need things, the infrastructure in place to tell us, like, to tell companies that they need to make things that are not so breakable, but if they are gonna break, that how do we repair them? Redemption centers where we don't throw away, you know, our clothes, our items that we don't use anymore. Somebody else might be able to use those things. And then those are the things that are already in the world already. But if we back it up to virgin materials, using less of those virgin materials, rethinking how we make products so that they're more sustainable. And that's how we do it. And that's how they're doing it in Boulder, Colorado. They have curbside composting, so you don't have to go somewhere to compost. It's very convenient for you. So these are the things that we can do here on Long Island. We just have to have time to think about it and come up with a plan together. And that's all it needs. It's just proper planning.
So I'm going to take it upstairs. There's a question on Zoom up there.
Yes, excuse me, it ties in. What is Transition Town doing towards better practices being written into local law?
There we go. We have actually worked on some laws. We did have a tree law that we worked to pass with Veronica Lurvy, and it was going to protect the trees that face the street, and it was passed, but it was never. And so what would happen is if you cut down a tree, you'd have to replace it with three seedlings. And there was all sort, you couldn't cut it down without basically talking to the town and being allowed to do it. That got overturned. So we have worked on laws that have been overturned by our town council. And so right now, frankly, I think the most important thing is to vote for people that share your values, that care about the environment. Because unless we have people that care about the environment who are passing laws, you can come up with the best plan and no one will pass it. So I think just study who the candidates are and what their history is. I don't know if anybody else has more to say about that. And yes, and go to Albany. We are partnering, Transition Town has been partnering on a statewide level, in part because some of these laws are still in action on the state. And we partner with New York Renews, which is over 200 environmental organizations across the state. Unfortunately, right now, Governor Hochul is about to gut our climate legislation. And we really need to stop her. So actually the youth and us are going to Albany on Tuesday to speak out to protect our climate laws. So as much as you can do to get involved and talk to your elected on every level, the better.
I have another question here.
Okay, so two related questions. Can you speak to what is holding the Plastic Recycling and Infrastructure Act back in Albany? Like how many legislators in the Assembly and Senate are for and against, how far is there to go? What are the barriers? And also, is there any federal action that's happening on this issue? Because, talking about Boulder, Colorado, and then what we can do here really feels, it makes you feel sort of overwhelmed by the enormity of our country and the overwhelming nature of the problem, right? So is there anything that can be done or is being done on the federal level?
Okay. Yeah. Well, do you want to talk to this? Yeah.
So great questions about the legislation in Albany. So yeah, we've been trying to pass the packaging reduction bill for 3 years. And what we see is that there is a huge lobbying effort from the plastic industry that rains down on every single one of the assembly members, including the Speaker of the House, Carl Hastie. And they have so much time, so much money, and they are there planted in Albany. So we talked about we went up there last month together, talking about going up there again on Tuesday, but they're there like every single day. And they're talking to the legislators every single day. And so we have a mighty task in front of us, and it's not easy because they have the money. But we have the people, and we should be able to, again, like Margaret said, elect people that will stand firm against the plastic industry. But right now we're seeing that we don't have that kind of elected body. But hopefully this year it'll be different. We're still, hoping for it. But we have a lot of co-sponsors. Both the Senate has passed the packaging bill. The Assembly has not. And the Assembly, we have, I think, 70 or so co-sponsors. So it should pass, but the Speaker of the House has the authority to call a bill to the floor for a vote, and he's refusing to do it. And he has refused to do it last session, and in particular, he called our advocacy lazy. So if anyone wants to call him in particular, I would love for you to do that. And then your other question was about, so I would say no at this particular time with the administration that we have right now. The head of the EPA is Lee Zeldin, who is a Long Islander, right? First was my representative. And he has closed down environmental justice offices. He has rolled back the particular law that was passed during Obama's administration called the endangerment finding that says that we are at risk for because of these toxins. So we have a very adversarial federal government right now. So I don't think anything at the federal level would pass by the way of plastics.
And I just want to clarify, the petition at the back of the room, and you can also do it online, is actually to get Carl Hastie to bring the bill for a vote. So that's the holdup. They think they have the votes. It's just held up there. So, and I did want to say one other thing before I pass off the microphone. Just in Germany, they charge, from my understanding, they charge for trash. So if we could change our model for charging for trash instead of things like recycling, then I think that would go a long way in changing attitudes. Yeah.
Containers, and there's 3 that are recycling, and those are free. But if you want to put garbage in the other container, it has to be in a town bag that costs money. So it incentivizes everyone to reduce their trash.
Right, and right now in Port Washington, we have trash pickup 3 times a week. So, yes.
So I'm just going to take this moment. We did put you guys shared some links with us that we have put into the chat. Bob, if you don't mind, just maybe put those links into the chat again so people can access those. Excuse me, and then we have another question here.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention I was attending a webinar with Beyond Plastics today. So somebody asked, what can we do? Beyond Plastics are like a real leader and action-oriented. And they mentioned that 5 billion meals are served every year in the cafeterias, mostly single-use plastic. So they're now, they have a model. It's very simple model, stainless steel containers, and the good old dishwashers back in the schools will create jobs and will cost the school district less. So the solutions are very simple, because instead of buying single-use plastics, you can actually be reusing stainless steel containers and utensils. But we should all be aware that plastic production is directly linked to the fossil fuel industry. It is in the interest of every fracking or natural gas production site to work with plastic producers. And why? Because the ethane flare, the byproduct of fracking, is used to make plastic. So many people don't put these two together. So there is billions and billions and lots of money being made while we expose our children daily to unregulated, there are 20,000 unregulated additives in plastic. So you have the plastic backbone, that was the microplastic and the nanoplastics that we spoke about. But then there are thousands of additives that give plastics its property. There's hard plastic, soft plastic, different colors. And these are not studied. So if you look at the regulation on food-grade materials, it's not the same as for medicine, for example, or for pharmaceuticals. So it's a totally unregulated market, and we're paying the price. So there is a movie on Netflix that was recommended today. I think it's called Detox Plastic. It's coming out on Netflix, that Beyond Plastics was saying, what's this? Because the public health harm of plastic, that is the story of the future. We can't do experiments on people. But we see a rise in all kinds of diseases that result from endocrine disruptors and known additives in plastic. So, and I see my friend Doug Wood is there in the back quietly. So grassroots environmental education is in the house, our mentors. There's a lot to do. We can all do it together. And it starts with being educated. So I for one, like 10 years ago, I had no idea that plastic is the, 5th polluter of greenhouse gases, the production of plastics. So this is something just good to know. And the decision, like at school, to eliminate single-use plastic, water bottles. I'm not going to go into the hospital and say, take away all the single-use plastic. Plastic has a purpose in certain places, sterile plastics, but we're using, it's kind of a wicked culture if you think about it, because we're using once a material that lasts forever. So single-use plastic is kind of a crazy idea, given that plastic is material that lasts forever. So just like when we're going about our day, just like going to Starbucks, bring your cup, like it's easy.
And just so you know, Kim, in answer to your question, Beyond Plastics is a national movement. So even though there are arms that are working in other places, so, but not legislation-wise. Right. Yeah, I don't quite know. Hopefully, hopefully.
So we have a couple. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just because you bring up Beyond Plastics, Judith Enck is the one who is the founder of Beyond Plastics. She used to work for the, I think, Obama administration. And, a lot of times what we see through advocacy is that things are easier to pass statewide than it is nationally. So it's a strategy to try to pass things state by state, and then, build up the momentum to try to get it through the federal government. But yeah, we do need this at the federal government level because, like Hilda just mentioned, this problem starts at extraction, not when we're throwing something away. So the only way we're gonna get to that part of the problem is to think about this in a federal landscape.
Okay, we've got a couple questions up on Zoom.
Yeah, a couple of comments, Jeff. I just used the link to sign the petition. This is a great time for everyone to sign it now while it's so conveniently available. So that's the
Excellent.
link, and I'll
Excellent.
send that link again.
Be sure to sign before you leave the room.
Yes.
And we have another comment to your question, actually. Hi, I just learned about this seminar through my school. I need proof of attendance to show that I attended this meeting today. Is there any way you guys can help with that? Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, if you want to either send your name in the chat and I can get that down at the end, if anyone else, or if you're in the room and you haven't signed at the resource table, make sure you sign in. And then for anyone on Zoom, type your name in the chat and I'll get all those names and give them to Miss Brandt.
All right. So Bob, if you can take that name down, we want to make sure they get credit.
I think it's important to big Brady up for advocating for the credit.
Could you guys talk a little bit more just in terms of advocacy? So signing a petition is one step. Can you talk about some of the other steps in terms of sending letters, making phone calls, going to Albany? Can you run us through some of the different options?
Yeah, I mean, off the top of my head, what I would really love you guys to do is sign up for our newsletter at info@transitiontownpw.org, because I will be sending out notices. For instance, there is a notice about protecting the CLCPA we need to write. I have links that I can send out. I'm planning on sending it tomorrow. So if you guys could sign up and then act on these things, that would be the best things to do. So yeah, I can't kind of spit all of it out, but things are constantly coming, and because we're partnering on a statewide level, next week, next Friday, we are going to go to, I think, the Capitol, Mineola State House, to protest Hochul's non-support of challenging the Climate Leadership and Protection Act. So we are happy to have people join us. There are many ways you can get involved. If you sign up, if you tell us how you want to get involved, we're all volunteers, and we really just need people to step up and help us. And I did want to make sure we pass on to one thing, and I've heard Monique talk about this, and maybe you could expand. The Brookhaven landfill is slated to close. It was slated to close a long time, and they keep on extending it. But at some point, it's going to close, and we won't have that landfill. So then the question is, where will our ash go? And I think it's slated to go to Pennsylvania right now. Is that where? Anyways, the problem will keep on moving. Even as the Brookhaven landfill shuts down, we're just going to be sending this problem to somebody else's backyard.
Yeah, I would just say that our elected officials are looking at rail to rail our waste off of Long Island more than they even are doing right now. So we are not a NIMBY group, so we do not want waste to go from our community to another community, just like we're asking that the waste here in Port Washington doesn't come to Brookhaven landfill. We don't want to be one of those perpetrators either. So, but it's going to take political will, and it's going to take the power of the people to stop this. So again, I mentioned Covanta and ReWorld leading the industry on what we do with our waste. Also, the waste haulers, the folks that come pick up the trash, those private entities are also in this to continue their profit model, and enter in rail is another option to take the waste out of here. So, I mean, we've been fighting these rail transfer stations. Since we started in 2020, we've seen a proposal for rail in Brentwood and the school district sued Brentwood School District sued the rail company to stop that one, and so far they have at least stopped it. It's still approved, but it's going through the court system. In Northport, they were proposing a rail line out of their from their incinerator to another community, and the community came out against that one. We were able to stop it was going to be the largest waste transfer station in the state, in Yaphank. We were able to stop that one, but then there was one in Medford, and we weren't able to stop that one. So our construction and demolition debris is currently going to Fostoria, Ohio. And like our connection with the students here in Port Washington, we connected with the students in Ohio, and so we are vehemently against our waste going somewhere else. But the only way we are going to be able to stop that is for us to band together to stop those rail proposals. And right now, currently, like I said, the town of Brookhaven is looking to get a grant to study railing our waste out of Long Island. We can't do that. We need a zero waste plan. So.
Okay, people power, I think that's the key there. So in terms of the piece of legislation, I know this is something that was asked before. It's our local, assembly legislator and senator that are needing to be contacted regarding this bill.
That would be great. They're not sponsors, so you could absolutely contact them. I think there's the votes. It might be the most effective to really contact Carl Hasty and make sure he puts it on the floor. That's where the energy is focused. But yes, let your electeds know that this is important to you.
Okay. All good up there. Yeah, another question over here.
It's not really a question, but just commentary. I'm new to composting. I've been an avid gardener for many years, and I'm noticing something in myself as far as my whole approach to this. I'm approaching it from a cultivating perspective, right? So I start composting. I have very little garbage. My only garbage is plastic, in a plastic bag, in a garbage pail. So what I'm wondering is, is that an approach that could also be taken in a more public way, like with the young kids, right? We're not just we're cultivating a garden when we compost. We're cultivating a garden when we put this here and we don't put that there. I'm a little bit involved in the rewild effort. So, because the word stop keeps being repeated here, and it's like a fight. And I know it's a fight, and I know I don't really know much about this at all, but there's always another approach too. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think, we got one more question over here.
Thanks. So thank you all for raising consciousness here about an important issue. But just to get back, and I don't expect any definitive answer, there was mention of a 70% reduction of the volume of garbage in Boulder, Colorado. So even if the consciousness of Long Islanders was raised to that level, there would remain 30% of the volume of garbage, which must go somewhere, right? If not to landfill here, then to Ohio or elsewhere. So, and I think we're probably a very long way off, sad to say, from the level of consciousness that exists in Boulder, Colorado. So it's got to go somewhere, whether by rail or truck. I do think the idea that there are pickup of garbage 3 times a week here in Port Washington is absurd. I mean, just from the use of gasoline to accomplish that. We should teach perhaps some of these garbage collectors to wash dishes, to keep them employed. But to stop transfer stations, that may be a valid approach, but less so without an answer as to where the garbage goes.
Do you want to sit? Okay.
Yeah, I hear you. 30% isn't zero. And I don't think that we are effectively saying zero when we say that. We want to, I don't know, Hilda is a yogi like myself. We want to set an intention, right, for zero. And if we don't set an intention for zero, then what is the acceptable number that we will accept, right? So that's where the zero comes from. And we can get there. 70%, some places are doing 80%. Like, we can chop these numbers down. We just have to invest in the infrastructure. If we do that, then we'll be on the way to a zero waste society. So I don't think that just because we can't get to a total sum of zero that we should let that be a deterrent for our aspirations or our goals. So yeah, we might be a long way from where we are, but if we don't start today, when are we going to start? And I'd also want to highlight the fact that our town supervisor in Brookhaven ran and campaigned on closing the landfill back in 2012. So the fact that we don't have a zero waste plan in 2026 is not because of me, not because of us. It's because of the inaction of our political class.
I wanna talk about something that bothers me every year. No, since it's now a therapy session. So stop bagging leaves in plastic bags. Like the black plastic bags, they're killing me. They're mountains, and that's sometimes going to the incinerator. And black plastic, when incinerated, produces incredible toxic ash that stays with forever chemicals forever. So the simple solution to your waste, like you said, plastic bag, is paper bags. Policies locally we could have, if we had a really good supervisor in the town of North Hempstead, setting like it's a simple rule. It's like, the smoking, everybody used to smoke everywhere, we would be smoking here, and then all of a sudden you're like, no, it's not okay to smoke in the library, right? So it's not okay to put leaves in a plastic bag because leaves come from the tree and they should be composted. Simple. That's illegal. I'll fine you $1,000 if you put your leaves in a plastic bag. The $1,000 go into, I go to Stop and Shop in Europe. I come from Europe. You go to places, there's blueberries in paper trays. We go to Stop and Shop. Everything is in plastic. Why? It's so simple. You just put regulation. Now you have biodegradable materials holding food. You have the apples by the peas, not in plastic. So it's very simple to eliminate plastic. We just buy into it because we live here and everybody does it. How many years was it? It was like 10 years ago. We had something at the landmark on greening Port Washington, and I was so outrageous. I remember I got a feedback from one of the moderators because I said, why don't we just bring our own bags to Stop and Shop? That was like my outrageous suggestion. And today, that's happening. At the time, the moderator was like, Hilda, this is Port Washington. Like, don't be crazy. So, like, things are possible. Like, if you look around you, like, go home today and be like, hey, with kids at school, we said, we encourage our fellow students to not bring Ziploc bagged sandwich. You can have, you can wrap your sandwich in so many materials that are not plastic. I'll stop.
And part of this legislation is to motivate companies to come up with solutions, and they can. So. Yeah, and they do in other countries. Yeah, so one of the another legislation is to leash the lid. It's going through, and basically it makes the bottle caps, where in Europe it's attached when you open the bottle. Coca-Cola, when it's in the United States, it's not, and those caps are everywhere and they pollute. They're major pollutants. And it's really all we need to do is pass legislation so they do the same thing in the United States as they already do in Europe. So go ahead.
You talked about that there isn't, I think Brady talks about it, that there is a very small percentage of plastic that's actually recycled. Do you know what happens, what's the process in Port Washington or in our county or Long Island? What happens to recyclables? Is it a small amount that gets recycled?
I don't know exactly what happens in Port Washington unless somebody knows, but I do know you can't recycle a lot of the plastics because of the additives. So no matter if it's in Port Washington or anywhere else, it's the additives that make it soft, that make it hard, that you can't combine all these different chemicals and come up with another product that's plastic. And in fact, from my knowledge of chemical recycling, they're finding that doing some of this recycling of plastic is actually worse than virgin plastic, which is kind of mind-blowing. So plastic recycling doesn't happen. It's created by the industry. So if it's even a small amount, that would not be a recycling program. I'm not sure what happens in Port Washington exactly, but I'm sure it's not a big effective program. Other recycling is very important. Glass, very recyclable. Metals, paper, and you should recycle those.
So,
go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to add a quick note. As we're starting to wrap this up, just going to make a shameless plug here for the library. So we have been participating with about 5 other libraries with a repair cafe. Excuse me, a repair cafe. Yeah, so if you're not familiar with what those are, it's an event that's planned with volunteers who are experts at rewiring a lamp or sewing or fixing a piece of electronics. We had one here about a month and a half ago. The next one is going to be at the Bryant Library on Saturday, April 25th. Which I also will mention is the Port Washington Library's annual Earth Day event. So you could come here, you could go to Bryant, you can make it a day. Anyway, so I just wanted to add that information, and it's a small little piece, but it was great to see people turn up for that and get things repaired rather than throwing them away.
All right. Any last question before we close up? I also want to just urge youth, to join our youth advocacy activist programs. We are so proud of our youth. They've done a really amazing job, so I just want to give them another hand.
You guys did a great job.
And
Excellent job.
I really appreciate you all coming. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for being here.